So next on the program we have the dedication of merit. So it's important to, I think, just to reflect that this retreat, as in any other retreats you've done, practice that you've done, is a time of merit making. The Buddha talked about many ways that we make merit in the practice of sila, so practicing restraint of actions and speech, giving up the intention to harm others and ourselves. This is great merit. Cultivating bhavana, as we have been doing, samatha bhavana, developing mindfulness and states of samadhi, vipassana bhavana, developing insight into the three characteristics of existence. This is of great merit. Listening to the Dhamma is great merit. Discussing the Dhamma, and then we call it straightening out our views in line with the Dhamma. This is of great merit. It's a time to just recognize that and rejoice in the merit that you've made. This is another kind of merit, rejoicing the merit that has been made, anumodana. So recognizing, appreciating, rejoicing in the good that's been done. That will help you to keep doing good, because the more value you give to the goodness, the merit that you make, the more you'll want to make more. And this will help you progress in your Dhamma practice. Because the nature of merit is it cleanses the mind of that which is not merit. So greed, anger, delusion, wrong views, and so on. And we can also make merit by dedicating merit to others. So we are dedicating the merit of this retreat, first of all, to the organizers, Bita, Wenjia, Darren, Eugene, and one more who I can't remember the name, I apologize. Huh? Chun Jian. So all the organizers will be sharing merits with you, and then particularly our families, so parents and grandparents, uncles, aunties, brothers, sisters, children, friends, and those who have passed away, maybe those who have passed away we can't remember, or it's so long ago, lost contact, can't remember their name, we still can share merit and dedicate merit to them. And I believe today is Singapore National Day as well. So today is a good day to share merit with the whole of Singapore. If we could be so bold, can we share our merit with a whole country, a whole population? I think we can. I wish everybody to have good health, success and happiness, progress. And recognizing the role that, a country plays in the world. The world has many countries, almost 200 different separate nations in the world. But a nation is a group of people living together in a geographical location, got shared interests in the economy, the government, education, healthcare, infrastructure, all the things that we benefit from. We all have a certain shared interest in that, and the hearts and minds of people as well. We get a certain benefit from living together as a nation where we can support each other, help each other, practice kindness and generosity for each other, value each other. This is part of human existence, isn't it? And we have many groups of humans. We have the families, we have workplace, we have a religion, we have soccer teams, as you see at the World Cup, all kinds of different groupings of people. But a nation is, in this modern day and age, this is the way groups of people define themselves, or one way that they define themselves. So, as it being National Day, we can share our merits of this practice, our practice during this retreat, with everyone in Singapore as well. So we will chant the verses of sharing and aspiration one last time, and as we do that, just send your thoughts out to all beings, those living, those who've passed away. You can join in the chanting as well. So if you have the book, it's on page 32. I don't know if we can have the words up on the screen, maybe we can. But the Sangha and we can all chant this together, just dedicating the merits of this retreat to everyone. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of Death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life, may they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. By the protective power of the 10 meritorious deeds, may Mara gain no opening. So I hope you've all benefited from this time together. It's natural when you come to practice, even if you're at home, you might say the relative comfort of home, that you'll encounter obstacles. So sometimes we have to go through our own unwholesome mental states that are triggered by practicing, putting effort into sitting meditation, listening to Dhamma, walking meditation. As we know, it's not always easygoing, plain sailing. Sometimes negative thoughts and emotions come up. Quite often it's old stuff coming up, but still we can mistakenly attribute it to our practice of meditation, and so then we turn on ourselves, or turn on the teacher, or turn on the method of meditation, or meditation itself, and blame that. That's one reason why we end the retreat with asking forgiveness, that little ceremony, before we go our separate ways, because practicing together, it's quite possible you've had a negative thought come up, maybe towards me, or a fellow practitioner, or someone in your home, or someone at work just coming up in your memory or something. And this is a good way to recognize that and clear the air and give forgiveness, seek forgiveness. It may be that nothing has come up at all anyway, but just in case we do this, because we are imperfect, we still do have mental defilements, and they display themselves in different ways. And particularly when you're meditating, you'll notice things, and sometimes that makes us feel guilty or unhappy with ourselves. So then you do the asking forgiveness ceremony. It's just to clear your air, know at least, well, at this time I've apologized for any potential wrongdoing through body, speech or mind towards the teacher, my fellow practitioners. And just covering that possibility. Just as we ask forgiveness, we also have to give forgiveness. Sometimes it's other people who have harmed us knowingly or unknowingly, deliberately or unintentionally. And we have to be able to forgive others as well. It's a two-way practice. And that's one of the ways they describe the noble ones, is that they live with an attitude of forgiveness. They don't hold on to grudges even when people hurt or harm them. People criticize the Buddha. Sometimes they were rude or insulting to the Buddha, disrespectful to the Buddha. But he didn't have an ego or sense of self. His mind was dwelling in emptiness, so he didn't have a big reaction if someone was rude or unkind to him. He knew what they were saying, but he didn't get angry or upset because he had no more conceit or self-view. But it wouldn't be good karma for the person because the Buddha was so pure, such a good-hearted person. If you get angry with a good-hearted person, it's only going to bounce back on you all the quicker. So it's a skillful means developed by teachers, wise teachers from the time of the Buddha, to ask forgiveness and give forgiveness. Not to hold on to grudges, ill will, bad feeling, so that we can go about our business with a clear mind. And if we have made a mistake, said or done something not good, then we recognize that and re-establish the intention not to say or do that thing again. Even Ajahn Kalyano, was considered such a wise, compassionate teacher. People sometimes got angry with him. Sometimes really what people get angry with is the Dhamma, the truth. Because sometimes the truth hurts, doesn't it? If you've got a lot of attachments and someone points out the truth of something, sometimes we're not ready to accept it, so that our own mind rebels or is stubborn and gets angry with the one telling the truth. It's really just we're not ready to accept the Dhamma. So sometimes a teacher maybe just giving a very general teaching, not singling out anyone, but just talking about the value of making good karma or keeping precepts or letting go of greed, anger, delusion, very kind of general teachings, but somebody takes it personally and they think about it and they get upset with the teacher or the Buddha. Occasionally even people sort of turn their back on Buddhism because they don't like some teaching they heard. But if you're really intent on improving your mind, you also have to pause and look more carefully, and maybe you can notice, this is my own attachment. Maybe you're not able to accept something. Your own mind sometimes argues. Maybe you feel you have a better understanding of the Dhamma or know more, or you don't like the way it's being presented, so your own mind argues with the teacher or argues with some aspect of the Dhamma. Maybe it's arguing in your mind with the teacher himself or the Buddha or something, some part of Dhamma teaching, you're teaching on karma or something. Maybe we don't want to accept responsibility for something we've done. Maybe we've done something that's led up to our own suffering, but we don't want to admit it. Or we may have done something that caused suffering to someone else, and we don't want to admit it. So in our mind, we argue with the truth. And hopefully you come to a realization, this, I do have to accept this. But not always. But this is another reason why we have asking forgiveness ceremonies, just in case that has happened. And you've been sitting there in your meditation arguing with the Dhamma or the Buddha, or the Dhamma, the Sangha, arguing with the teacher and the teachings. Hopefully you get to enough mindfulness, you get to the point where you say, this is just kilesa. That last verse of the chant we just did, the dedication of merit. May Mara gain no opening. Whenever our guard is dropped, we're not heedful, we're not mindful, we're not seeing the truth, then Mara can slip in and cause us trouble, cause us suffering. Slips in on the back of greed or anger or delusion. We get caught into wrong thinking. It's one of Ajahn Chah's favourite teachings. If you're suffering, it's because you're thinking wrongly. It's like Mara has slipped into the way you're looking at something. Your attitude, your view at that point has gone wrong. And that can make us even argue with ourselves, argue with others, argue with the Dhamma, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So we have to be ready for that. And one mechanism for dealing with that is asking forgiveness. Another is taking the refuges, undertaking precepts, and then meditation, establishing mindfulness. It's just like we always say, meditation is cleaning your mirror, the mirror of the mind, just cleaning it up so you can see certain negativities and wrong thinking and attachment to views and opinions that's causing suffering. You recognize that and start to let go so that your mirror, the mirror of your mind, can be a bit more peaceful, clear. And that's where happiness comes from. Sometimes we have negativity towards sort of big things. So like this is National Day in Singapore. Maybe sometimes you catch yourself being angry with the government. Very common modern sort of illness, isn't it? We get angry with the individual politicians, the government. But it's a very kind of vague, general kind of statement that we make in our mind. The government's wrong, we shouldn't have this law or this regulation, or they should do more about that problem. And of course, the government is made up of individuals, and those individuals still have their own kilesas, and they get it wrong, and they make mistakes, and so on. But the government as a term, what is it? It's just an umbrella term for a whole collection of people. Where do those people come from? Well, they come from the people, the population. And often, the government is a reflection of the population. So if we do our bit to practice the Dhamma, that will actually, in smaller or bigger ways, have its effect on the government, to improve the government. Because the government is only the people, it's no different. It's the same with Buddhist monks and nuns. Sometimes people blame them for problems in the religion or the practice, the teachings. But where do Buddhist monks and nuns come from? Well, they come from the people. That isn't to say individual Buddhist monks and nuns don't make mistakes. They may break their rules sometimes or get wrong views, wrong understanding. But they're coming from the people. And it's not that the Buddha Dhamma Sangha is at fault or the religion is wrong or at fault. It tends to be the individual giving into their individual Mara or their own kilesa, which of course happens to us all. everyone practices the Dhamma will have their own story of when they've given in to anger, followed their angry thoughts, given into greed or selfishness, held on, clung on to deluded views, got it wrong, and only later realised that. You know, that's part of the nitty-gritty of practicing Dhamma, is we're waking up to the truth, and that sometimes means taking responsibility for our mistakes and faults and weaknesses so that we can grow. But the whole point of practicing mindfulness and then reflecting on the Dhamma is that you're turning even dukkha, even suffering, into something useful and good. So when we're mindful, the mind tends to be peaceful. You could even say happy. Even if you're being mindful of a thought that is unwholesome, so that you can let it go, you recognize, oh, this way of thinking is wrong, this way of thinking is causing me suffering, attaching to this negative reaction, this angry reaction or this selfish reaction, to this conceit or this jealousy or this fear, recognizing that, your mind actually goes to peace because there's mindfulness, and you can recognize that thought as unwholesome, as impermanent, something to be let go of. And we can, as long as we're cultivating mindfulness, we can actually find peace by contemplating dukkha, the first noble truth, becoming aware of dukkha or knowing dukkha. And that's the amazing thing about the Buddhist path, is even suffering can be turned into something that we can learn from, grow from, and it becomes wisdom if we apply the practice to it. This is why we call the Four Noble Truths noble truths, because they ennoble the mind, they raise the mind up to a higher level of, you might say, civilization. Arya Satya Dhamma. Satya means truth, Dhamma means the way things are. Arya, translated as noble, is also translated as sort of civilized. The civilized way to look at suffering is understand its cause and then abandon the cause and recognize suffering for what it is. Then your mind rises above it to a better place, a higher place. So even suffering can bring us benefit, can be turned into something good if we know how to do that through the practice. So I'm impressed with everyone who stuck with the retreat, because I know it's not easy practicing at home. We have so many distractions and things around that are maybe not so supportive of the practice. So if you manage to stick with the meditation, listen to the talks, do the chanting, that's very impressive. And I'd encourage you all to keep it up, whether it's joining other online retreats, talks, and so on, but also just for yourself, develop your own personal discipline. So even when you don't have access to online retreats, you can still practice at home or wherever you are. Whether you're on your own, you're with other people, you're at home, you're out of your home. One of our aims in the practice is to be able to practice in all situations, all places. Keep the precepts, practice mindfulness, reflect on the Dhamma everywhere. That's our aim. So I encourage you all to keep doing that through your practice, and we hope to see you all again soon, either online or maybe in person if you come to Bodhivana Monastery, Melbourne, Australia, or I might be going to Singapore later in the year, or in some other place we might meet as fellow Dhamma practitioners. Well, if we do meet, that's good. But we'll finish today with giving you all a blessing. We'll wish you all the best of health, wish you all freedom from illness and danger and obstacle, and we hope that you progress in your Dhamma practice towards Nibbana, that you gain Sila, you gain Samadhi, you gain wisdom. And the Sangha will now face the camera, and we'll give you a traditional blessing before we go our separate ways. Yatthavarivaha pura paripuranti sakarang Eva ito tinang betanang upakapati Ichitam batitang tumhangipameva samichatu sabbe purentu sankapa Chanto panara soyata manicho tira soyata Sabaro goina sato Mate bhavantantarayo sukitikayo kobhava Abhivatana silisa nicham buddhapachayino Chataro dhamma vatanti ayuvanno sukhang Palang sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sangha bhavena buddharatanang dhammaratanang sangaratanang dinang ratananang Nubhavena chatura saiti sahasa dhamma kanta Nubhavena pitakataya Nubhavena jina savaka Nubhavena sabete roga sabete paya sabete antaraya sabete Upadava sabete dunimita sabete avamangala vinasantu ayuva takodano Tako siriwa, tako yasawa, tako balawa, tako vanawa, tako sukawa, tako hotu sampada dukkha roga paya vera soka satu jubadawa anika antaraya pivina santu jate jasa Jaya Siddhi Tanang Labang Sotip Kayang Sukham Balang Siri Ayu Jawano Jabo Kang Wuti Yasawa Satawa Saja Ayu Jajiwa Siddhi Pawantu De Bhavatu Sabbamangalang Rakantu Padevata sabba buddha nubhavena sada soti bhavantu dev tu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba dhamma nubhavena sada soti Today bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba sanghano bhavena sada soti bhavantu today.